This is London.
Welcome to a very special edition of LDN Capital TV. A warm welcome to all our fans watching in the UK on TWC Fight, and a special hello to all our Canadian friends watching exclusively on the Fight Network. We've got a very special show for you this week, as it features a true legend of the sport and a bona fide household name, Kendo Nagasaki. Nagasaki, a huge star from the world of sport era, has spent the last 5 years trying to find a top new British wrestler to pass on the benefits of his knowledge and skills. He and his manager Lloyd Ryan recently contacted LDN owner and promoter Mr. Sanjay Braga, who agreed that LDN would host a unique tournament, the Kendo Nagasaki Sword of Excellence. Tonight we'll be bringing you the grand final of the competition in full, as well as an exclusive sit-down interview with Nagasaki's manager Lloyd Ryan. But before that, let's take a look at highlights from the semi-finals as we join your commentator for the evening, Mr. TV John Atkins.
No time to waste, fans. Beginning of round 5 in this exciting Spirit Rules contest. We are 5 rounds in. The score is 1 fall apiece, and both men are desperate to get the winning fall. Fans, Yorgos coming out fighting. Phil Powers puts the brakes on, twists things around, goes for the backslide. This could be all. 2 and a 3, and Powers goes through. No, he doesn't. Yorgos in the nick of time, just able to kick out. Powers staying on the offense. Snapmare takedown, drops a knee to the skull. And maybe now Phil Powers will finally get the break that he deserves. 1 fall apiece, folks. Yorgos came out fighting and scored a shock pinfall in round 1. It took Phil Powers 2 rounds to even the scores, and we go into round 5 with just 1 round remaining after this. It is 1 fall apiece. And of course, in any Spirit Rules matchup, it is the first person to score 2 pinfalls to win the matchup. Both men, of course, are desperate to go through to the finals of this bout, because they know that waiting for them is a place in the finals of the Kendo Nagasaki Tournament of Excellence. Kendo Nagasaki, of course, a big star from the days of the world of sport. Beautiful headstand escape there. Yorgos goes around the front for a front face lock. Phil Powers' face rubbed in the mat. And as I say, Kendo Nagasaki, a big star all the way back to the 1960s, came out of retirement in 2001 to try and find a new wrestler that he could pass on his wisdom to. And that has culminated in this tournament, brought to you by LDN. A cover there from Phil Powers. And both of these men would dearly love to be the successor to Kendo Nagasaki's crown. Yorgos reverses, whips into the corner. Phil Powers goes up top, comes off with a cross body, rolls him up. There's a cover, the referee just in position, and just a 2 count. And what a matchup this is. Powers lands him hard on the mat, goes for the cover. And Yorgos somehow, after 5 grueling rounds of battle, still finds the energy to kick out. Powers looking to the crowd for motivation.
You shut up!
And Yorgos trying to pull the ears. Trying to find any way he can to break that hold. The hold is really sapping the energy. As I said, Yorgos came out in this one fighting. He scored a shock pinfall in round 1. Phil Powers leveled the scores in round 3. And now both men pretty much on an even pegging. 5 rounds in, you can see the fatigue is starting to wear in.
Come on, Yorgos!
Yorgos doing his best to get the adrenaline pumping. An elbow to the stomach of Phil Powers. 1 to the ribs, finally breaks the hold, but a clothesline sends him back to the mat once again. Powers with another cover, a lateral press, and Yorgos still kicks out. Oh, a big right hand there there from Phil Powers, comes off the ropes and launches himself, and both men tumble to the outside. And fans, after 5 rounds of battle, you can expect both men are going to be frustrated. Both men are going to be tired. And quite frankly, the last place they want to be fighting is on the outside of the ring. And Phil Powers quite rightly brings Yorgos back into the ring. Goes up top, he's on the top turnbuckle, he comes off with a beautiful missile dropkick, and surely that's all. Surely that is all. Powers crawling over for the cover, the referee in a great position, and a 2 count, and Phil Powers is furious. Phil Powers cannot believe it, he came off the top with a textbook example of a missile dropkick. He hit Yorgos flush in the jaw and still could only score a 2 count. Powers clearly realizes only something massive, only something really big is going to put Yorgos away. He's putting him on the top. He's going for a superplex. If he hits it, it's bound to be over. Yorgos fighting back. He tosses Phil Powers from the top right into the mat. Powers up, he's staggering. Yorgos comes up with a crossbody. There's a cover. And a 3, no! So close. Unbelievable. What action we are seeing. You can see how important this match is to both men. 5 grueling rounds of action and still they continue to fight. And what a boot there from Phil Powers, just taking out the left leg of Yorgos. Yorgos barely able to stand. Powers goes on top once again, comes off with a leg drop, and that surely is all. He has put so many men away, hooks the leg, and he's got it. And Phil Powers is going through to the final of the Kendo Nagasaki Tournament of Excellence. Congratulations to Phil Powers. Let's take a look at the replay. Comes off the top, a leg straight across the back of the skull of Yorgos. 3 seconds later, here's your winner, filthy Phil Powers. Take a look at the height that he got on that leg drop. Powers is going through to the final, but who is he going to face? In the 6th and final round of what has been a grueling semi-final. Tex Benedict brought back in the hard way. This matchup 0-0, the final 5-minute round of the semi-final, and I think Robbie Brookside can smell victory. He has hung Tex Benedict upside down by the legs. Benedict flailing in the corner, but there's literally nowhere for him to go. Brookside off the ropes, and both feet to the face of Tex Benedict. And now the fans really rallying behind Robbie Brookside. And Benedict has taken so much punishment in the preceding 5 rounds. This match has been a classic example of the world of sport style, really popularised by the likes of Kendo Nagasaki in the 1960s and 70s, even in the 80s. An eye rake there from Benedict sends Brookside to the outside. Nagasaki returned from retirement in 2001. Since that time, he has been looking for a new young wrestler to pass on his skills and wisdom to. Phil Powers defeated Yorgos in the other semi-final.
This is your Robbie Brookside.
It's going to be Benedict or Brookside facing him very soon here on LDN Capital TV. And this matchup has degenerated. Benedict, the frustration clearly showing now on his face. He has fought a fantastic sporting battle up till now. But now the anger and determination, and I think we are seeing a side of Benedict we do not normally see. Both men have fought a very clean match up till this point, but now Benedict taking the action on the outside. And a big boot to the shoulder of the fallen Brookside. And Benedict may well receive a public warning for that. Indeed, if it had been in the ring, I think he may have done. Referee Chris Roberts begins the count on Robbie Brookside. And no one here would want to see a draw. We need to see a winner because the winner will have to face Phil Powers in the final of this tournament. At stake, the sword of Kendo Nagasaki. And what a rich prize that would be for either of these two fantastic athletes. And now Tex Benedict really seems to have lost control. We have seen a great scientific bout up until this point. Oh, but now Robbie Brookside is caught. He is caught in the ropes, and Tex Benedict, that was intentional. A deliberate drop kick to the knee. And he is twisting that knee so badly. Let's get some help here for Brookside. Come on, referee, get Benedict away from him. Get Benedict away. He's finally freeing the leg. But what damage has that done? A public warning in round 6 there for Tex Benedict. But what damage will have been done to Robbie Brookside by that move? Whatever damage, it will only have been compounded by Benedict's actions right now. Twisting the ankle back, spreading the legs apart. Oh my, right on that injured left leg. What a bout we have seen so far. Still 0-0 after 6 grueling rounds. If it remained 0-0 at the end of this round, we would have to go into sudden death. And after fighting for in excess of half an hour, I don't think either of these wrestlers would be at the top of their game. Brookside particularly seems to be feeling the pain of this one. Nice flip over there from Brookside, but he may have hurt his own knee in that. Benedict again going after the injured knee, the injured left leg, but a beautiful enziguri from Robbie Brookside. It was a desperation move, and I think it had more effect on him than on Benedict, because Benedict is back up to his feet, and he is saying it's over. But we are against the clock now. We are running out of time. This round is coming to an end, and we are just seconds away from sudden death. And both these wrestlers are desperate to finish it. The round clock is coming to an end. We have been wrestling for nearly 5 minutes. But Brookside sends Benedict flying off the top, hooks both the legs, and he's done it. He has done it with seconds to go in round 6. Robbie Brookside defeats Tex Benedict 1-0 and goes through to the final.
This is London. This is London.
How did I meet Kendo Nagasaki? Well, before I met Kendo Nagasaki, I was actually a reasonably successful drummer, playing for people like Tony Christie, Brother of the Man, Matt Monroe, all the big bands of the day, Come Dancing, Strictly Come Dancing, those things. But I got a bit bored with just playing. I wanted to go to another level. So I thought, well, let's bring out a single. You know, there was no way that someone from my background was going to bring out a successful single. So what we did, I thought, watching the wrestling on Saturday afternoon, and I thought, supposing I dedicated a single to one of the wrestlers. So I got together with a guy, and we looked at the wrestling every week, and it turned out that Kendo Nagasaki was the big mystery man at the time. The guy with the mask, no one knew who he was never beaten, etc., etc. So I thought, well, let's put on a single to Kendo Nagasaki, Kendo's theme, we called it. And that's how it came about. And by chance, I was walking through Brixton one day, and that's something you have to be careful of. I was walking through Brixton, and I met George Gillette, or Gorgeous George as he was known then. And I grabbed him and I said, George, I want to get hold of Kendo. I want to do a single dedicated to him called Kendo's Theme. Can you ask him if it's okay? Anyway, he took my phone number, and about a week later, I got a phone call from George, and he said, "Yeah, we're up for it." And I ended up going to meet him up in Wolverhampton. And I remember first, you know, he said, blah, 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 you know, we talked, and the record came out. The manager, well, that again happened by accident, because Kendo retired and gave up. He opened up a recording studio. I did a few recording sessions for him, actually, as a drummer, just backing different artists. He had a band called Cuddly Toys, I think was the name of the band at one point. And anyway, one day I went as a punter, I went to Walthamstow Assembly Hall, and Lawrence, who was the driver for Kendo, Mr. Lawrence they called him, he called me and he said, "You're wanted, Nagasaki wants to see you." Apparently George was in hospital, and he said to me, "Would you like to do the management?" I said, "Well, don't forget I'm a full-time drummer. You know, I mean, I can't." I was working at Blazers in Windsor at the time, backing all the big stars, and there wasn't any money in wrestling for me. But he said, "You know, do it when you can. We do the Albert Hall, the Fairfield Hall, the TVs and bits and pieces that we were doing then." And anyway, I said, "What do I do then?" He said, "Well, you just get in the ring and wind up the audience." So I thought, okay, I'll do that. So I got in the ring, and I did a few stupid things, like first time I've seen dead people smoking, and you know, if you were in India, it was sacred and all that sort of thing. Sorry, and they started booing me and shouting at me and giving me a hard time. And I always remember not knowing very much about what I was doing. I was standing by the edge of the ring, and someone grabbed my foot and took my shoe off on the first show. After that, I was always told, always stay in the middle of the ring. And it went from there, and, you know, just carried on. George retired and then unfortunately died, and I carried on with it. And, but a different image to George. I mean, George had that camp image. I was more aggressive. They hated me, actually. And I hated them as well. Well, that is what it says. We're looking for the best wrestler in the country, basically. Kendo is retired, but he feels he's still got a big link with the wrestling business, and he feels that the youngsters should benefit from his experience and his wisdom. And I would say that definitely the best wrestler in the country will win the sword. It's in the form of a sword, which will be engraved. It'll have Nagasaki's mask on there with the cross swords, and it'll be to the whoever the wrestler is. We had a big feud with Brookside for about 10 years. I'd be interested. I mean, you know, may the best man win. There's nothing now. That's water under the bridge. There's no aggro now. I mean, Nagasaki's retired. But it's interesting that Brookside should be there after all these years, after all the aggro we have with Brookside. And I must add, I must say this, if you're watching Brookside, you were beaten every night. You do realise that. But no, you're not in with Nagasaki now, of course.
We see how Phil Powell's...
well, he's got two of the best men in the business here.
Absolutely.
This is London.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the final of the Kendo Nagasaki Tournament of Excellence. Will you please allow me to bring to the ringside Kendo Nagasaki's manager, Mr. Lloyd Ryan.
Well, fans, what a special day this is for fans of LDN wrestling and indeed British wrestling in general. We welcome now to the ring the famed manager of Kendo Nagasaki, Lloyd Ryan. Ryan, of course, the manager of Kendo Nagasaki for over 17 years. He took over from gorgeous George Gillette. And he is making his way to the ring to introduce the man, the legend that is Kendo Nagasaki, who, of course, will be issuing his Sword of Excellence to either Phil Powers or Robbie Brookside very, very shortly.
Thank you all very much, everybody. How many people of you remember Kendo Nagasaki from the old days? The legendary, one and only Kendo Nagasaki.
This is London. This is London.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you've heard, this is a very, very special contest for the Kendo Nagasaki Award, the Tournament of Excellence. So let's give a warm welcome first, please, to the first participant, Phil Powers.
Well, here he comes, and this, even getting this far, has got to be considered something of a career highlight for Phil Powers, and indeed his opponent tonight, Robbie Brookside. They are through to the final of the Kendo Nagasaki Tournament of Excellence. Kendo Nagasaki and Lloyd Ryan, we saw them just moments ago, cleansing the ring, a traditional Japanese salt ritual. The ring is in great shape, and Phil Powers is in great shape as well for this, perhaps the biggest match of his life so far. So much at stake here for Powers. This would really cement his legend in the UK wrestling scene. He has done so much in his career so far, but this would be a great feather in his cap. Nagasaki, of course, has been scouring the United Kingdom for the last 6 or 7 years. Since he came out of retirement in March 2001, he has been searching for somebody to pass on his skills to.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a warm welcome for the one and only, the Liverpool lad, Robbie Brookside.
As I say, Nagasaki has been searching for 6 or 7 years for someone to pass on his skills to. Lloyd Ryan, his manager, got in touch with LDN promoter Mr. Sanjay Bagga, and they have held the finals of the Tournament of Excellence. At stake, Kendo Nagasaki's Sword of Excellence. We saw the semi-finals recently on LDN Capital TV, and it came down to these two, Phil Powers and Robbie Brookside. And And Brookside clearly very, very popular here with the fans tonight. And Robbie Brookside, a very, very respected veteran on the UK scene. This year alone, he has wrestled for the WWE in front of 60,000 fans at Earl's Court. Previously, he has wrestled for WCW. He's wrestled in Germany, in Japan. He is very, very well-travelled, perhaps one of the most well-travelled British wrestlers ever, rivaling possibly only Kendo Nagasaki, who himself travelled around the world in his heyday back in the 60s and 70s. Phil Powers with slightly less international experience, but there isn't a top star in Britain today that he hasn't wrestled and beat at some point in his long career. What we really are seeing here tonight is two of the top stars in Britain, two of the top wrestlers. Both of them eager to prove to themselves and to the fans here tonight that they are number one, and indeed both of them determined to win the Sword of Excellence.
Why don't you shut your mouth now, you bullshit?
Well, as I pointed out during their entrances, Phil Powers, not the most popular person in the building. Robbie Brookside, clearly the crowd favourite. And there's the opening bell, and the fans solidly behind Robbie Brookside. Brookside, of course, such a talented, natural athlete. Great collar and elbow tie up there to begin. And these two men aren't wasting any time. Powers forcing Brookside into the ropes. Gets whipped across the ring himself. And a chant popularised by British wrestling legend Big Daddy there breaks out. And it's only right that we point out the history. The history within this contest. The finals of the Kendo Nagasaki Sword of Excellence. Nagasaki, of course, perhaps the top star from the world of sport. Made his professional debut in 1964 against Jumping Jim Hussey. Later in the 60s, defeated and unmasked the legendary Count Bartelli. Continued to wrestle throughout the 70s and 80s, at home and abroad. And commanded some of the largest viewing audiences that the world of sport wrestling programs ever received. Both Brookside and Phil Powers cite Nagasaki as a great influence on their wrestling careers. And they are very keen indeed to impress him here tonight. Nagasaki and, of course, his manager Lloyd Ryan are sitting on at ringside. They are observing this matchup. And, of course, the winner of which they will become Nagasaki's protege, for want of a better word. They will receive Nagasaki's famed Sword of Excellence. And with that, his seal of approval. And great skill there from Brookside, using Phil Powers' own weight advantage against him. And the momentum sent Powers scurrying to the outside, where he is taking some time to catch his breath. But Brookside looking to bring him in the hard way, and he gets caught on the top rope. Leg lock there by Phil Powers. Brookside trying to conserve energy, because that is a painful move indeed. And the more you move, the more it hurts. And Phil Powers really trying to cinch that on. And Brookside doing all he can to escape it. Brookside's got to watch those shoulders, and indeed he rolls over to avoid being pinned inadvertently. And Brookside struggling to break that leg lock, and I think he might have done it. He has certainly come very close. Indeed, he has reversed it. And now Phil Powers is in trouble. Excellent counter wrestling there from Robbie Brookside. Brookside perhaps the top all-rounder in the UK today. Great scientific and technical foundations. But when he needs to, Brookside can fly. And indeed, he is deceptively strong as well. But that time, Phil Powers with the single leg takedown. Clamps on a front face lock. And Brookside again brought down to the mat. And clearly the strategy of Phil Powers now becoming evident. He wants to ground Robbie Brookside. He wants to keep him off his feet. And there we see Lloyd Ryan and Nagasaki looking on with great interest. Which of these wrestlers will pick up the legacy of Nagasaki? Who will gain his sword of approval? Both of these men have wrestled long and hard to get here tonight. Phil Powers had a grueling match with Yorgos, defeating him 2-1 in round 5. And Brookside, of course, with a classic matchup against Tex Benedict that nearly reached the distance. It was 0-0 with seconds to go, and in the final round, with just seconds left on the clock, Brookside was finally able to put Tex Benedict away. Two fantastic semi-finals, and the two best wrestlers in the UK today were victorious. The cream rose to the top, and it is Powers and it is Brookside, and they are wrestling the match of their lives tonight here on LDN Capital TV. And you are watching on a TWC Fight in the UK, and you are watching exclusively on the Fight Network in Canada, and these are two of the very best that Great Britain has to offer. Powers now showing a more aggressive streak. He has neutralised Robbie Brookside's defence for much of the matchup so far. And again, he brings him down to the mat. And again, he slows Robbie Brookside down. He is bringing the match down to his pace. Brookside doing his best to counter, and he does, nearly into a hammerlock. Instead, he flips Phil Powers over, and a penalty kick. The penalty kick from the 12-yard line. And there's not a keeper in the land who could save that one. And that is going to knock the wind out of Phil Powers in a hurry. And now he hangs Powers up, and Powers knows all too well what's coming next. Powers is flailing in the corners. Powers is flailing, desperate to avoid this. But Brookside comes off the ropes, and a beautiful boot there. And a beautiful boot straight to the throat of Phil Powers. Powers was hung up to dry there. And Brookside using his footballing ability there. Brookside could easily have been a professional soccer player should he have chosen. He had trials with several top teams in his youth. And this is how he put Benedict away. This is how Tex Benedict went down in the semi-finals. And again, Phil Powers knew exactly what was coming. And he sent Brookside flying, unfortunately, straight into the official. And our referee is down. And I'm guessing Phil Powers is going to the outside to find a substitute referee. But no, he's gone to the table. And he's challenging Nagasaki. And Nagasaki has placed a hand over his face. And I don't know what he's doing. But Phil Powers is shaken. Phil Powers is shaken. I don't know if he's just been hypnotized or what. But something very strange just happened. Powers back in the ring. The referee's up. Powers goes into the corner, but he's placed on the top. And again, Brookside goes for the move that put Tex Benedict away. And this time he hits it, rolls over for the cover. And that's it. Brookside has won the Sword of Excellence. Brookside has won. Let's take a look at the slow-mo replay. Powers on the top turnbuckle, and he is sent flying across the ring, landing flat on his back. Brookside roll over, but where's Nagasaki going? Where is Kendo Nagasaki and Lloyd Ryan going? Fans, I don't believe it. We have got to go to a break. Don't go anywhere.
This is London. This is London.
Brookside won the match, and by rights, he should be.
Hey, let's get this straight. Phil Powers, I don't care what you think or what you say. I've just pinned you 1, 2, 3. End of story.
Indeed, Brookside won the match.
I came here today to see some old friends, but I came here today to take that sword from Nagasaki for past times rendered. Right? I'm not coming to back. I'm not leaving without that sword, right? The sword is mine.
Strong words there from Brookside, but well justified. Brookside just fought a grueling matchup with Phil Powers. He defeated him. Well, here comes Lloyd Ryan. Perhaps for an explanation.
Phil Powers says, you're the winner. I don't care what you people think of me. Referee, that man there messed with my head.
Listen, let me just tell you two something. Kendo Nagasaki feels very strongly, as the custodian of the Sword of Excellence, that neither of you met the criteria to be a winner. That is the end of it. You can forget it. Neither of you were good enough. That's the end of this. Hey, Ryan, big mouth. So what you're trying to tell me, Phil Powers and 300 people, is that you brought the sword today, and because we didn't meet criteria, then you're taking the little sword away. Well, I don't care what you say or what you think. I've got an issue with you and Nagasaki yet again. And I'll tell you people here in BAP, if I get that sword, I will rub it right up.
Running outside, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome back, wrestling fans. What we saw before the break, the final of the Kendo Nagasaki Sword of Excellence tournament. A hotly contested performance between Phil Powers and Robbie Brookside. Brookside, of course, came out on the winning end of the battle. But Lloyd Ryan came back out after the match and said that neither Powers nor Brookside met the criteria set by himself and Nagasaki. And so as a result of that, Nagasaki would be keeping hold of the sword, and neither man would win it, despite Brookside being the rightful winner of the contest and the tournament. Notwithstanding the interesting behaviour of Kendo Nagasaki and Lloyd Ryan here this evening, Nagasaki, of course, still very popular indeed with the fans, and LDN are delighted to be able to bring them this autograph opportunity to meet a true legend. And you can see the hundreds of fans here in the building tonight, every single one of them keen to get the autograph of the legend that is Kendo Nagasaki. And indeed, what about Phil Powers? We all saw what happened to him during the contest. He went outside to remonstrate with Nagasaki and Ryan. Nagasaki placed a hand over the forehead of Phil Powers, and Phil Powers claims that he was hypnotized. He claims that something very, very unusual indeed happened to him, and we know that Kendo Nagasaki, a very mysterious individual, certainly no stranger to controversy in his career. He was well known for hypnotizing opponents, for conducting bizarre ceremonial rituals, and indeed, he met with considerable success, defeating many of the top names in the UK scene. Since 1964, when he made his professional debut, and fans still continuing to queue for miles. They are, of course, signing or getting signed copies of his new book. Hold on just a second. Hold on just a second.
Where's the sword? Give me the sword now.
Oh, Robbie Brookside just upturned the table.
Give me the sword.
And Brookside wants that sword.
Come on. Come on, fat boy. Give me the sword. Right, Ryan. Give me the sword.
Brookside is out of control, but maybe he's got a point. And I'm sure he wouldn't have wanted to do this if it wasn't absolutely necessary. And again, Kendo Nagasaki and Lloyd Ryan are leaving the building. Roy Brookside quite rightly demanding that sort of excellence that he won.
Nagasaki, I know that you're there, and I know that you can hear it. I came here today to win a championship sword. I don't care about spoiling for the swords. That man has terrorised my career, and I will never take it no more.
Harsh words there from Brookside. We haven't seen the last of this, but we are out of time. We'll join you next week again on LDN Capital TV.